have a question for you. Why is it always fall harvest, never summer harvest?
Plenty of delicious vegetables are harvested during the summer. There's corn, peppers, broccoli, and those are just my favorites. Today we're combining all the delicious flavors of summer into one logic-defying dish. Your friends are going to be thinking you're a master chef. There'll be seasonal vegetables, fluffy quinoa, and a flavorful raspberry sumac vinaigrette without the vinegar. This is one culinary trick you don't want to miss.
Make sure to join our fun foodie community so you never miss a cool culinary trick like this. I think we've all heard the term in season before, but what does it really mean? Why is it better to cook with foods that are in season than those that aren't?
If you buy foods during the peak of their freshness, or their season, they are considered to taste better, have more nutrients, and cost less. Seems like a no-brainer. I mean, who doesn't want their food to taste better and cost less? The problem is, it's up to you to know what foods are in season and what aren't. Currently, that's the things I mentioned before: corn, broccoli, radishes, those things. Most foods can be found all year round thanks to the invention of low oxygen storage.
This allows out-of-season produce to be stored for weeks or even months without major drops in quality. But in-season produce is still going to have a superior taste, and because it's more being picked, it's going to be budget-friendly.
That being said, now that you have a shopping cart full of in-season foods, what do? Let me show you a surefire way to take those veggies from good to great. Roasting brings out the natural sweetness of vegetables by allowing their sugars to caramelize, leaving these wonderful golden brown edges. These things are packed with flavor. How to roast is simple, but let me break it down for anyone who's new to the kitchen. Start by cutting your veggies into half or single florets, things around this size. Doing so increases the vegetable surface area, maximizing the amount of caramelization. Now for most veggies, having them works well, but broccoli crowns are really big, and they have a pretty bad reputation of being a messy cut. This is how I like to prep my broccoli for minimum fallout and maximum flavor. Place your broccoli on its head. Then in a circular motion, cut one floret at a time. Once you have all of your florets freed from the crown, slice them down the stem and pull them apart until you have the size you want. I've stopped here as it's just big enough that the broccoli doesn't dry out. Make sure all of your veggies are coated in a generous helping of olive oil, salt, and some freshly cracked black pepper. Then place them in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius until they look like this. Now if you're wondering what's going on for corn, let me explain. Corn has a lot of surface area packed into a relatively small space. When it comes to a kernel, there's really 5 sides we focus on for browning: the top and the 4 around it. Unfortunately, only one of these sides are accessible when it's still on the cob. That's why we're not just tossing a whole cob in the oven. Instead, we're removing all the kernels from the cob and browning them in a hot skillet. This allows all 5 sides to develop color. A general rule of thumb is the more color, the more flavor. While that cooks, let's make a bed of fluffy quinoa for our veggies. Feel free to do this before cooking your corn so you can use the same pan for both. In a hot pan, heat some olive oil and add 2 cups of white quinoa. Toast for 1 to 2 minutes before transferring to a larger pan and adding 3 cups of water. Bring to a boil, then reduce the heat and cook until all the water has been absorbed. You'll want to stir this occasionally. It'll take 12 to 15 minutes for all the water to absorb, and you don't want the drier sections to burn. Quinoa is a great way to add a boost of fiber to your meals while soaking up all the delicious flavors we're about to add with this raspberry vinaigrette. Pour a half cup of light-tasting olive oil into a glass measuring cup. Then add 3 tablespoons of partially thawed frozen raspberries. Yes, they're in season, but since this recipe calls for so little, frozen is actually more practical. Using an immersion blender, blend into something that looks straight out of a Barbie fever dream. Then add 1½ tablespoons of sumac, a half teaspoon of ground yellow mustard, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper. Making this on a plate is pretty, but impractical. Pretend I mixed it all here. Look, so pretty and totally not inconvenient at all. Now why do I call this a vinaigrette when it contains 0 drops of vinegar? Is it because it tastes like one and therefore it is?
Yep.
The star of this sauce is sumac, which tastes like powdered vinegar. For years, sumac has been used to bring acidity to dishes when other options weren't readily available. A culinary fact that would bring anyone one step closer to master chef status, but for someone like me, is an absolute game changer.
I'm histamine intolerant, which means that I have to keep the histamine levels in my food really, really low. Something that I just cannot do with vinegar.
Sumac, on the other hand, opens up a whole world of possibilities. It makes these vegetables taste 1,000 times better when placed on a fluffy bed of quinoa. It makes these ribbons of fresh mint and the sprinkle of dill pop that much more. It makes this entire dish taste insane.
That's really good.
From my kitchen to yours, eat happy.